Ooh, we got to get on to Jackson Hole. It's a thing. It's happening. It's a beautiful place. I can't afford to go there myself, but I hope you get to visit there one day. Let's take a look. So the 2-year, if you don't know, the 2-year Treasury yield is a proxy for the Fed funds rate. That's what we follow on a day-to-day platform basis because we don't know what the Fed's going to do. So the the yield of the 2-year fluctuates based on the beliefs of what the Federal Reserve is going to do. So if you ever want to see, that's kind of how you look at it. Well, we know that's proxy. So on the screen, what we have is put together the data, the change in light blue so far this year of the 2-year leading up to today, the start of the Jackson Hole meeting. Now, the Jackson Hole meeting doesn't always last these 3 days, so it's a little bit of you're getting the accurate data here. And then we said, okay, over the last 20 years, while this has been a thing, let's look at the 2-year yield leading up to, see the 0 mark there, and then after what tends to happen. Well, if we look through that, the 2-year, or I'm not going to say it this way, but what we would perceive to be the Fed funds rate, I'm going to say 2-year, falls into the Jackson Hole meeting. And that's exactly what's happening now. The 2-year yield has actually fallen into the start of this meeting. It's good news if you like lower rates. After the Jackson Hole meeting, rates tend to increase, but not by as much as they fell, which is really good news if you're in the middle of looking to buy a house or spend some kind of credit that you were hoping for lower rates on. We'll see if that happens again. Now, in 2023, you got it. 2023 was the biggest move that we saw in the last 20 years from the 2-year yield inside of the Jackson Hole meeting. And the reason was the comments that Jerome Powell made at the time was, we're going to be focused on more restrictive policy for some time, meaning he was not going to cut rates. He was looking to be tight with the money, right? And so we saw a big return there. They said, we're prepared to move interest rates at any time if appropriate. Those are his words, not mine. That was the biggest move we saw. And so think about what's happening in this meeting. We have Jerome Powell doing, it's going to be his last Jackson Hole meeting. I mean, it's just the way it's going to go. So we had, in 2023, we had this last rate hike before that Jackson Hole meeting. It was in July, actually. And so now we're coming into a moment where the Fed knows, the Fed doesn't like to surprise the market, period, right? You notice how they're very clear about, we're considering this. We realize employment or unemployment is at this rate. We're up to the potential of a rate cut. We'll take a look at the markets. We believe that we should be doing this or that. They're very, very cool about, we don't want to surprise the market. Okay, well, then we have this Federal Reserve meeting coming up at Jackson Hole, and the belief is 85% that they're going to cut rates in September. So at Friday's Jackson Hole meeting, when Jerome Powell speaks, if he wants to endorse the fact that they're going to cut, there's 2 other guys that need to chip in here, otherwise it's not going to happen. But if he wants to endorse a Fed rate cut, he'll do it at the Jackson Hole meeting. It'll be clear as day. He's not going to actually say, we're going to cut rates, blah, blah, blah. But there will be clear intentions that is the path they're going to follow. That's why this is so important. That's why the markets are like, what do we do? Do I watch? Do I not watch? What was he going to say? If there's no belief based on the data that he's got coming in, which I'm of the camp that we don't need to cut rates. I don't understand why you would cut rates. This is not my job. I'm not an expert, but in my humble belief, just leave it, right? Keep money a little bit tighter. Everybody's got money. It's fine. But if there's no intention of cutting rates, expect nothing. He's not going to come out and say, well, we just, based on the data, don't know. We shouldn't cut rates, whatever. No, he'll totally avoid it. Watch this. This is like, you want to come back later and watch this video and go, wow, how'd you know that? Watch how he'll say nothing about cutting rates. He'll just talk about policy, the economy. We're a little concerned here, a little concerned there, whatever, but there'll be no mention of rate cuts. That's how you know whether it's going to happen or not. This is a repetitive cycle. This is something that happens. There's not really, there's no science behind it. This is just how it goes.